Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at pages 30 and 31 in your lesson book. As you can see, we're in the key of E flat major. So we've worked our way through a lot of keys in this book. We started all the way back at the beginning of the year with the key of C major, no sharps and no flats. And we worked through keys all the way up to having 3 sharps, up to the key of A major. Then we worked through keys going all the way up to E flat major. This is our last one with 3 flats. Okay, the book does not go through every single key, and that's because it really hit the ones that are the most common. So sometimes you'll have more than 3 sharps, and sometimes you'll have more than 3 flats, but it's really common to be within that range. So this is our last key, major key that we're going to be looking at. And so, like I said, there are 3 flats in the key of E flat major. They're B flat, E flat, and A flat. And everyone should really be paying attention to that last flat, A flat, because everyone has an A string. And because of the A flat in the key signature, that means you cannot play an open A. Okay? Violins have it extra tough because now you can't play an open E since it's E flat, and you also can't play an open A. So for this entire lesson, make sure you're not playing your open A string at all. It's always going to be an A flat. And if you're a violin or a viola, that means on the D string, you're going to do a low 4 to make an A flat. If you're a cello, you're going to stretch your 4th finger to play a G sharp or an A flat. Okay, or sometimes you'll be in a different position for either instrument, and then you'll just follow the finger pattern. So, speaking of finger patterns, let's start with number 146. Finger patterns in E major, first position. So we'll start with our violins. And you might remember from previous lessons, we've always talked about which strings have the low 1. I'm going to give you a hint on this for if you're a violinist. Every string has a low 1 in this key. So the key of E flat major, every string has a low 1. Cello and viola, you're going to have low 1 on your upper 3 strings. The C string does not have a low 1 because that note is a D, and we still want D natural. So we're going to do low 1 here on the E string. That's an F natural, and a 2-3 pattern. So here we go, violins. Good. We'll get everyone in on the next one, the A string. Again, they just don't have you play A flat. They don't have you play anything. You just start with the B flat, which is a little bit different for these. Normally we start with our open string, but we're going to start with low 1 B flat, and then do, if you're a violin or a viola, it's a 3-4 pattern. Cellos, you have a little bit of a shift in there to do. So, and when you shift, it's going to be 1 and then 2 fingers. So here we go. Moving on to the D string, now we actually can play the open string. So we'll have D and then E flat low 1. And again, another 3-4 pattern. Here we go. Good, and on G, again, there will be a low 1, and we're going to have an open pattern. So all whole steps. This is the one where it always sounds a little strange, even if you're doing it correctly. So here we go with that. And cello, you're going to have an extension. You're going to have 1 stretch to 2, stretch to 4. So here we go with the open pattern. Good, and then finally on the C string, remember this is the 1 string that does not have a low 1, so you can put your first finger where it normally would go. And this actually should be the most straightforward thing of the whole exercise, so we're just going to play it. Here we go. All right, very nice. We are going to move on to 147, finger patterns in E flat major, third position. There's only really one tricky thing about this, and it's for the violins on the E string. Everything else with this actually is in my opinion, easier than the first position stuff. Unless you feel really, really good about low ones, and then maybe the first position was super easy. But that's really tough to play in what we call half position with your hand all the way back there. I actually think the third position stuff tends to be a little bit easier. But for violins, this is weird on the E string, because you might realize that first finger in third position on the E string is called A, and we want A flat. So in the past, we've taken our first finger and moved it a little bit higher, and I called it third and a half position. But now you're going to take your first finger, your A, and you're going to actually move it back a half step to an A flat, okay? I call that second and a half position, but really it's just technically second position. Well, no, I'm sorry. You're playing in third position, but you're putting your first finger in a second position spot, okay? But everything else is still third position, okay? So we're gonna use our A and back to an A flat, and now you have an open pattern, all whole steps. So here we go. Okay, now the rest of this should be a piece of cake for everyone. Back up to just regular old third position. It's a 1-2 pattern on the A string. Here we go for everybody. Good, over to D again, 1-2 pattern, same thing here. Over to the G, a 2-3 pattern. Here we go. And cellos and violas on the C string, 2-3 pattern of your viola. Cellos, you have a shift in there again. You've actually been shifting for all of these between third and fourth. So here we go. Awesome, very good. Okay, so we're going to now look at 148, the E flat major scale. It's a little bit different for each instrument. These scales, because they're 2 octaves, tend to be different depending on your instrument. So violins, the scale is actually easier than it looks, but it does go very, very high. And you actually have a new position, fourth position. As you can guess, fourth position is where you take your first finger and put it where your fourth finger would normally be. Okay. The reason that I said this scale is easier than it looks, though, is you might remember the whole half pattern that we use for scales. The rule is that if you start a scale with the first note on your first finger, the pattern for that scale is whole half, so space closed, or a 3-4 pattern on one string, and then the same thing on the neighboring string. So if I was going to start my E flat major scale with my first finger on an E flat, which I obviously have to, it's going to be on this string, and then the same thing on the neighbor string. Okay, except when we get to this E flat, since we're going to keep going, you're going to go up to fourth position. And this is an E flat with your first finger, which means we're just going to do that pattern again. So the second octave is the same thing. When you go to fourth position, a whole half, whole half. Okay. So this actually, even though it looks really tough, is one of the easier scales to play in 2 octaves. You don't have to worry about finger patterns. You just do this 4 times. And as long as you get that shift to fourth position, you're fine. All right, violas, you kind of luck out on this one. You have all first position, except you do have to remember your low 2s and your low 1s. Remember, it's low 1 on every string except for C. So you're basically going to be playing in half position for a lot of this. Okay, and you cannot play open A. And cellos, I'm not sure what it looks like in your book, but in the teacher book, it looks like they actually made a mistake. They put that they wanted you to shift to first position, but they haven't marked with fingerings for second position. So this only goes up just slightly past first to an E flat. If you'd like to play it all in first and then just shift up for the last note, you can, or you can go to third in the spot where they've marked that. And we can talk about that more in your lesson. So I'm going to play the violin version of the E flat major scale, but everyone else go ahead and play with me with your whatever fingering or octaves you have. Remember, we're doing all quarter notes. We're not following the rhythm written in this exercise. So here we go. Very good. Okay. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. 151 and 152, we will go over those in our lesson in more detail, but what I'm going to do is play 151 for you and then kind of leave you to do 152 on your own, and we'll go over that together in the lesson. One thing I want to point out about 151 is, first of all, there are triplets. We've seen these before, but we don't see them as often. So you can see you don't count the pickup as a measure number. So if you count the first, second completed measure, at the end of it, there's a group of 3 notes all connected with a 3 over it. That's a triplet. That means we're going to fit those 3 notes together into one beat. So normally we would just divide the beat into 2 to play 8th notes. Now we're dividing it into 3 to play triplets. Okay. For violins and violas, you're in third position for a lot of this, so you can look back at the finger patterns in the third position exercise on the previous page. And cello, it actually looks like there's one little spot where you shift at the end to fourth, and other than that, you're in first the whole time. One thing I like about this tune is that if you look at the end, there actually is an E flat major scale going backwards for the last 4 measures, and so there's another opportunity to practice that scale, and you'll know if it sounds if you're not playing the right notes because it won't sound right. Everyone at this point should really know what a in tune major scale sounds like. So that's a really good spot to check to make sure you're doing the right fingering. So here I go. I'm gonna, if you're a violin or viola, I'm going to find my B flat in third position. So right here, cellos, you get to hang out with 2 fingers on G in first position for now. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, here we go. That's a very cute melody. I think that's one of my favorites in the whole book. So practice through that. Again, I know this is a really tough key to play in, but you do have to play in this key sometimes. So it's important to just take some time to practice it and get familiar with it so that when you do have a piece that has the key of E flat major, it's not a big surprise. You're already prepared. So take some time to look through this stuff, and we will go over it in your lesson when we meet in person.